Hello students, myself CA Jyoti Hargude. As I have discussed earlier, in our CA Foundation syllabus, we are going to study various business laws which are useful in our CA profession. One of the important branch of this business law is law of contract. It is a mercantile law and which is very useful in our day-to-day life also, which is personal or professional. Now, today we will see the introduction of Indian contract law. We cannot say that it would have become impossible if the law of contract was not there, but it would have been difficult if it is not there. It is very useful law in our day-to-day business life. It affects each and every person in everyday's business transactions. Indirectly, we can say the law of contract is a foundation of the civilized world. You may not be aware that every time you enter into any transaction, you follow the law of contract. Suppose we are drinking a cup of tea in a hotel. At that time, we enter into a contract and we follow the law of contract. Whenever you go to the office, you go to the classes, you go to the colleges and take a ride of a bus or suppose a rickshaw, you enter into a contract with that rickshaw owner or with that bus driver. You ride a bus, you pay for that ride. Another example is whenever you go to the movies, you enter into a contract. Why? Because you purchase a movie ticket and then only you can enter the theater. So each and every one of us enters into various n number of transactions every day and we are following the contract law. Of course, we are unaware about it. So now why are we going to see this contract law in detail, even though in day-to-day life also we are following the law of contract? Because this law will give us the wide knowledge regarding how this contract law creates a legal rights and obligations in a person's life. So we are going to see how we can enforce these rights and obligations to each other. So it is an attempt to realize the reasonable expectation induced by making the promises. As whenever we enter into contract, we make a promise to each other. So how we are going to induce those promises is very important. Here is an example. Suppose you are telling a way, you are showing a way to some of the people. At that time, we are not expecting any consideration for those showing a way. This is a social service and this is not a contract. So we cannot enforce any legal rights and obligations against that people. Another example, transport agency renders a transport services to their customers. In this case, the customers are going to pay for that transport services. So this is a business transaction. It is not a social transaction. That's why the law of contract will be enforceable in this case. Another example, suppose you are going to stay in such a wonderful hotel. We have to definitely pay for the charges, whatever it is. It may be higher, it may be lower. But at the same time, whenever we reside in our own home, we don't pay any charges because it is a social relation. So the law of contract is a branch of law which determines the circumstances in which the promise or an agreement shall be legally binding on each person making it. So in our day-to-day life, we regularly promise something to another person, but all the time we don't enter into contract. For example, suppose in the morning only you promised your mother to help her in the kitchen work. This is a promise, but suppose you fail to perform that promise. In that case, your mother will not go in the court of law. She will not go to enforce that promise against you. That's why it is a social transaction. Each and every time we cannot enforce the law of contract. Only in case of business transactions or only where both the parties have the intention to create a legal relation, then only we can enforce the law of contract. Example is, if A is entitled to receive a sum of money from B, then this right can only be exercised by A. Suppose you owe some money to the banker, then only banker is authorized to demand that amount from you. Not the third person, not any other person can demand that money from you. So this law is concerned with the rights in personam and rights in rem. So on the other hand, so this right in personam means one person owes something to another. In that case, that person only can demand from the other person. This is a right in personam. Another example is, A owes a plot of land and B is immediate neighbor. So these A and B are the neighbors having the plot of land. The right of A to have a complete possession and enjoyment of the land is available not only against B but against the whole world. Suppose you own your house, so you have the right in that house, you have the right on that house against not only your neighbor but entire world. Not even Prime Minister come to your home and ask for staying unless you give the permission. That's why this is called as a right in rem. So the law relating to contract, it's contained in Indian Contract Act 1872. The act by no means is exhausting on the law of contract. It does not deal with all the branches of contract. So as the law of contract was insufficient, certain other laws are come into force like Indian Partnership Act and Sale of Goods Act. Because partnership and sale of goods have the wide branches, that act are different. So Indian Contract Act is again divided into two parts. First part deals with the general principles of law of contract and it applies to all types of contract irrespective of their nature. And the second part deals with the certain special kinds of contract, namely the indemnity, guarantee, bailment, pledge and agency. Now what is the definition of contract? A contract is legally binding agreement, that is an agreement which is enforceable in the court of law. As I said, you promise your mother to help her in a kitchen. Suppose you fail to enforce that promise, still your mother cannot go in the court of law because it is a social transaction, because both of you don't have any intention to create a legal obligation. Both of you don't have any intention to go in the court of law. So unless and until the agreement contains the legally binding concept, there we cannot say it as a contract. According to Solomon, the definition of contract is an agreement creating and defining obligations between the parties. So ultimately, agreement should be there. According to Hulse-Busley, an agreement between two or more persons which is intended to be enforceable at law and is constituted by acceptance by one party of an offer made by him by the other party to do or abstain from doing some act. We will see this definition again in detail. So as per the Indian Contract Act section 2H, the contract is an agreement which is enforceable at law. So there should be firstly the agreement. So agreement is there, obligation should be there, and an obligation is an undertaking to do or abstain from doing some definite act. Now positive and negative, both activities are covered here. To do something or not to do something, both activities are covered here, and that activity should be defined in that agreement. So the obligation should be such that it is enforceable at the court of law. Again, the concept is whatever the obligation is mentioned in the agreement, it should be enforceable in the court of law. If it is not enforceable, then we cannot call it as a contract. In that case, it will be merely just an agreement. In other words, it must be an legal obligation and not merely the moral, social or religious agreement. As I said in the example, you promised your mother to help her in a kitchen. So it is a social or moral obligation. It is not a legally binding obligation. But in the same case, suppose you go in a hotel and order some food. In that case, you create a legal obligation. Why? Because as soon as you order the food, it is assumed that you are going to pay for that food. Again, another example is there. You invited your friend to come to his house, to come to your house for a dinner. Suppose at that time you were not present at your home. In that case, your friend cannot go in the police. Your friend cannot call the police and he cannot enforce that agreement because it is a social agreement. We cannot term it as a legally binding agreement. So we cannot put all the laws of contract on that agreement. Another example, and which is a very well-known case for this social and business transaction, is case of Balfour versus Balfour. Now, in every case, there are two parties. In this case, you are going to see the name same, Balfour versus Balfour. So here one party is Mr. Balfour and another party is Mrs. Balfour. Now Mr. Balfour and Mrs. Balfour went to England for some holidays. There Mrs. Balfour fell ill. Now the doctor said that she needs to stay there for certain period. Then Mr. Balfour promised her to pay certain sum of money as long as she stays there. After some days, Mr. Balfour failed to send that money. Now Mrs. Balfour goes in the court of law for demanding that money. Now the court decides that this is a case of social transaction. Why? Because Mr. Balfour and Mrs. Balfour are husband and wife. Whatever the agreement was made between them, it is a social in nature. Both of them don't have any intention to create a legal obligation. So this is a classic case that whenever the parties are in a whenever the parties are in relation and they are making an agreement, we cannot call it as a legal binding agreement and we cannot term it as a contract. Another case is there which will be discussed later. In that case, same husband-wife relation was there, but later on they get divorced and then new agreement was entered. At that time, that agreement can be enforced in the court of law because at the time of making agreement, the parties were not in relation, blood relation, and they have the intention to create a legal relation. In this Balfour versus Balfour case, they don't have any intention to create a legal obligation. So neither of the party can go in the court of law, neither of the party can enforce that agreement against the other party. So every obligations need not be the contract, but all obligations should be, all contract should be an obligations. In each and every contract, we have to perform some type of obligation, which may be positive or which may be negative. Agreement is another element of the concept of contract. So agreement gives a birth to contract. So every contract firstly starts from the agreement. There should be agreement first. Unless and until there is an agreement, there will not be a contract. Agreement should be made by two or more parties. It is very important that both the parties must be agreeing on that thing. So agreement, when we call it as agreement, when one party proposes something and other party accepts it. Suppose your father is telling you to do study. This is an order. It is up to you whether to listen to that order or not. But another example, when you go to the hotel and waiter offers you something, it is up to you whether to accept that or not. So agreement is offer made by one party and acceptance made by other party. The agreement is necessarily the outcome of consenting mind, or there is another term is consensus ad addendum. That is, the contracting parties must agree as regards the subject matter of the contract at the same time in a same sense. So it is very important in case of contract that agreeing party must be agreeing on a same thing in a same sense, and they are agreeing on a subject matter of the contract is very important. Now, what is essential in order to agreement into a contract is, among other things, is consideration. Of course, there should be consideration. As I said, every transaction cannot be a contract because social transactions are there in which we don't expect any consideration, and there are business transactions in which we expect some kind of consideration. So the consideration is another essential element of the contract. Now, agreeing on a same thing in a same sense, here is another example. You can see there is a white horse and black horse. So one person owes two horses, one black and other is white. Another person B comes to A and asks for horse purchase. In that case, B was willing to purchase white horse, but A was willing to sell his black horse. In that case, consensus ad idem is missing because both the parties are not agreeing on a same thing in a same sense, and here horse is a very important subject matter of the contract because we are dealing with the horse only. So the concept of consensus ad idem is missing. That's why the agreement cannot turn into a contract. Even though there is an agreement, A offers to sell his horse and B accepts to purchase that horse, but the consensus ad idem concept is missing as A wants to sell his black horse and B wants to purchase white horse. That's it for today.